Hello, welcome to Men's Health Connected and the latest in our series on social connection and men. As part of our Building Mateship Showcase, we're hearing from lots of great groups around Australia that are working to connect men at a community level. Today, we've got two giants of the men's sector in this session we've called Mateship on the Move. I'll be introducing them shortly. But first, I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands where we all meet from. Today, I'm joining you from the traditional lands of the Bailey, the Bunda Bunda, the Gureng and the Grang people here in central Queensland. So, Mateship on the Move. For those who don't know, I'm Glenn Poole, CEO of the Australian Men's Health Forum, and we've got two great speakers lined up in this session from two wonderful organizations. Coming up, we have Mark Burns, CEO of the Man Walk. But before we get to Mark, we're going to hear from Paul over in WA, Paul Litwin, who's telling us all about Men's Talk Australia, Men's Talk AU. I never quite know how to say it, Paul. How do we say it?
Yeah, Men's Talk AU, yep.
Men's Talk AU, who burst on the scene a couple of years ago and have been doing a huge variety of activity. And I'm sad to say that I still haven't had the chance to actually get over there and join them in person, but I will do soon. I'm looking forward to hearing from Paul about all the things he's been getting up to and the team have been getting up to that's helping to build social connection over there in WA. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, and appreciate the opportunity from Australian Men's Health Forum to put these forums together because as a lot of, when we have our chats with men, it's all about stories and storytelling and how important storytelling is. And I think here's another great example of that, where we are exchanging our knowledge and our stories so that we all can learn and we can take bits and pieces from those stories to be able to apply them into our own programs and also into our own lives. So I think that's really, really important. I'm going to be talking to you today about our Movement, Breath and Connect program that we launched last year. And it was after having a chat to some mates and also to fellow friends and also to work colleagues about an opportunity that would be both getting men to be doing something that was active, but also at the same time connecting and creating community. And that's exactly what Movement, Breath and Connect has done. We launched it last year in January, and it was initially a monthly catch-up, and that was led by our physiotherapist, who's absolutely amazing. His name's Cam Watkins, and he leads the facilitation of the session. But it's more than just doing the movement and breath, because that's what he specializes in, but it's also about the connection and bringing men together. And we started in January. I think we started with about a dozen men. And now in its peak times, we can have anything up to 100 men that are coming up on a beach setting, which is at Scarborough Beach. And I'm not sure if the rest of the people that are online, Scarborough Beach, we're very lucky. It's probably one of the most iconic beaches in Western Australia. We've just finished hosting the Australian Surf Lifesaving Championships there, and it's absolutely spectacular. So to have that sort of a iconic venue that men can actually go to, it's pretty central from Perth, about 15 minutes from Perth. So it's a very easy access. So, and that's and we do it, like I said, we started off as a monthly program. It's become so popular now, we're doing it fortnightly. So, which is absolutely great. So in essence, what it is Cam, our physio, he runs through, it's an hour, it runs for 60 minutes, brings the men together. We go through a focus of breath and what breath is. And unfortunately with breath, a lot of people, and particularly men, breathing is something what they do at an upper level rather than when it should be from the gut, and how to do proper breathing techniques that can actually improve our well-being, just being by being able to breathe correctly and knowing what the techniques and skills are in relation to that. And knowing that we could do that on a daily basis, and by practicing that on a daily basis, it actually improves our well-being. The other thing that he does we start off with a breath, and then we move into some movement, and that is movement on, not just from a yoga perspective, but also movement from a science perspective. And I love a terminology that Cam used. It's called motion is lotion. And I really love that, because that's exactly what it is. And particularly as we age, he says that, the way that we should be moving our bodies and our different parts of the body, that actually contributes to how we age and to what effect age affects us in our movement. And I think that's really important, because that's something that we can actually use as a guide, so that when we are aging, we are able to be aware of what those movements and how the different parts of the body are affected by that, and what we should be doing to lessen the effect of aging, which is absolutely fantastic. So we come together on a fortnightly basis, 60 minutes. We go through all these sessions. And so we do the breath, we do the movement, and then we finish off with a connect. And the connect is anything from jumping into, well, right now it's going to be a very cold Indian Ocean because it's winter, but in summer it's absolutely brilliant. And then it's a coffee afterwards. And what's great is it's not a case of, oh, well, I've just done the session and I'll just run off. A lot of the men, and the majority of the men, actually stay. And they stay and have those great conversations, those mateship connections that, they may not do if they were going to a gym, or if they were going to do an aerobics class or something like that. So this is that very important connection to be able to then share the stories over a coffee, which I think is absolutely, or a breakfast. And we've now connected with the local cafe that then suddenly knows when we're running our sessions, because there's an influx of men that suddenly appear, and they're even putting menus together that are specifically tailored for the program, which I think is wonderful. I really do. So it's a great community that's then, put together. I think the problem that we are solving, and this is what we're finding out generally with Men's Talk when we have our community sessions, is what we're finding for men is the theme of loneliness. And you might say, yeah, I'm connected with a family, or maybe I'm not. I'm ostracized from the family, or I don't have close friends, or I don't have good work colleagues that I can share experiences with. A lot of the time, the men that have come to our movement, Breath and Connect, are coming because they feel they have no real community that they actually can connect with. So this ability to come and absolutely enjoy that ability to be a part of something that is really simple. There is no cost to this. It's absolutely free. And that the ability for them to connect, and we have all age groups, and that this is another thing that we really love about this program, because it is not, unfortunately, ageism is an issue in this country. There's something that we need to be doing through activities like this, and I believe Man Walk and other programs, similar programs, are addressing that. We need to bring the ages together. So this is young men and old men. And so our age range varies from 15-year-old teenagers to 80-year-old men, and everyone in between. And the fact that you can see a 15-year-old having a chat to an 80-year-old and connecting in that way, I think that's brilliant. And where do you see that? Where do you specifically see that happen in our community or society? Of course, you would see it if you're a part of a family group that has that age range, but take that away, where would you see that in society or in community? So it's something that is really very important to us, and is bringing those different age groups together. On top of that, it's also, we have a lot of multicultural men from different backgrounds, as well as the Indigenous. because once again, it's bringing the different groups together. We're connected with an elder, a local elder called Len Yaron. He's absolutely amazing. And I'll never forget the smoking ceremony that he did for International Men's Day. That was very, very emotional, but it was something that the men still talk about now and saying it was probably one of the best experiences that they had ever had. And to have that opportunity and bringing all of those different groups of men together, no matter what their background, I think that's a win-win. And we learn, and the storytelling that comes from definitely the multicultural, the Indigenous, the young and old, and you have this real mixture. I think, like I said, it is very, very positive, particularly for the men that are connecting with our community. So, you know, I think it's great, and it's a great space for these men to focus and to know that they are not alone, that there are people that actually care, and that they have something that is of a regular basis that they can participate in. And then conversely, afterwards, a lot of these men that have connected through this program are now mates. So they now connect outside of the program. And we've had many great stories of that, of men that have said, you know, because of the program that you have put together, these men have come together and formed their own friendships and mateships through it. And it goes on beyond what we have established on a fortnightly basis. So, you know, I think it's something that we're really proud of. I think we have been acknowledged by the local government as well, that this program is very beneficial to building that men's community and building it in a very, very positive way. And it's great to get that, you know, great acknowledgement. And I'd probably finish off by saying that a story, really. We had a 45-year-old Tyler who had never done anything like this before. He saw one of our social media ads that was promoting the session, and he just decided he'd come on down to have a look. And then and that was back in mid-year last year, he has not missed a session since. And what he told us was, you know, for me, sort of encapsulates what the program's all about. He said, as a Tyler, he works really, really hard. And in fact, he's been ostracized from his family. So he has, sadly, had very little human connection. His human connection, he called it, was the television when he got home. And I'm like going, that's a medium connection, not a human connection. And what he said to us was, by him attending the program and being involved in this, it's brought to him that ability of something to connect with from a human connection point of view, but also to make new friends that he previously didn't have. And now he just absolutely loves it. And he's referred many others in the trade. Now, he obviously works in the tiling trade, and he's referred other tilers to the program, which again, that's where you start to go, the program has its opportunity to spread and say the great things, because, you know, word of mouth is a very, very powerful thing. So yeah, it's really onwards and upwards for this program, and we're really proud of where it's going and the direction that it's heading.
That's wonderful, Paul. Thanks for your passion. I actually lived for a couple of weeks when we were traveling in Scarborough. But that was back in 2017 when there was no men's talk. So it was just a beach, a beautiful beach, but no men's talk. So looking forward to coming over sometime and actually hanging out with you guys. But one of the questions I have, I'd be interested to hear, you know, others have questions they want to contribute or just feedback they want to share. You sort of touched upon it with the Tyler there, but yeah, how are you finding? Are you able to track sort of how the social connections are building outside of the fortnight?
Yeah, we have been, and it's interesting. We've been actually getting some stories from those men that have connected outside of the program itself, and have said what they've been doing, and even the different age groups. I mean, it's great to say that you know, for example, a 25-year-old is connecting with a 55-year-old. And these two, just an example, the 25-year-old's is a blue collar worker, the 55-year-old's an accountant, and those two have formed this really great friendship and mateship. But it's also a life skills of what they can teach to each other and learn from each other by that connection.
Great. And what do you think most of, like your Tyler case study you mentioned there, what do you think the initial thing that people, the blokes come for? Is it the exercise they're drawn to? Is it the activity? Is it the coffee? Is it the social connection? Is there a particular thing that actually gets the guys, I was going to say through the door, but there is no door, right? So yeah. Is there a key thing that gets the blokes on the beach in the first instance?
I think, Glenn, I think exercise is the initial. And, you know, they're hearing it in the media, they're hearing it everywhere about the importance of exercise, and, you know, that men need to be looking after their fitness. But I think once they are into the program, I think it then obviously evolves from that. And it goes, yes, I'm going there because it's good for my health and my mental well-being as well. But I think also that connection point that a lot of men then go, yeah, I really look forward to catching up. You know, I've mentioned those cases that do catch up outside the program, but then there's others that purely stay in connection inside the program. And then they look forward to having that little fortnightly catch up or monthly catch up and having a chat and saying, oh, how's your week been? Or, you know, your fortnight or month been? And just from there, those conversations happen.
That's great. Yeah, it's interesting how many groups we've spoken to in the past week or so where I did start using the phrase, you know, health by stealth. And then, you know, I got told by a few people, no, there's no stealth. We're really upfront about what we do. The point I was trying to make was that we're actually getting men into these social connection programs without ever calling them social
Correct.
connection. And so I suppose what it is a better way of saying it is we are reducing barriers to men accessing these services by packaging them in ways that are attractive to men. So it's not so much we're doing it by stealth. I mean, I was thinking you're called men's talk. It's clear there's going to be talking involved, but you're not sort of like you're not being sneaky and sort of clubbing them on the head and dragging them into a social connection group. But you're providing the point of access in a way. It's not a health center. It's not a Sykes clinic. It's just the beach where you have surfing comps.
Correct. Absolutely. And, you know, Glenn, you're absolutely right. And with Men's Talk, we've talked about this a lot. It's about the subtle messaging here. And the platform will be the messaging will be the same. We want to improve men's mental and physical well-being, and also our other mantras, the prevention of male suicide in the community. But that stays, the messages stay the same, but it's the platforms that you then deliver and the innovation or creative way that you deliver those platforms that will say, you know, one group of men will not go with that platform, they won't associate with it. Where conversely, another group will go, that's exactly where I want to go and I want to be a part of that.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Going to open the floor to any questions in a second. So if you've got something you want to ask or just something you want to, you know, chip in and say and contribute from what you've heard from Paul, just sort of formulate that. But I noticed that Ross Dean popped a comment in the chat box. Ross, do you just want to actually share that yourself out loud rather than me reading it? Oh, you on mute, I think.
Mute, yes.
There you go.
Sorry about that. Yeah, the fact that Paul has raised loneliness has really pleased me, because in my personal role of working individually with people, that aspect of being on your own and not being able to have a conversation about your concern right at this moment is critical, and it's there for so many men, particularly within a rural context, people who are out there on their own working in a rural situation, loneliness is quite often a dominant factor, and having the opportunity to meet other men and to listen to them is great.
Thank you, Ross.
And my son's ringing me.
There you go. We're all socially connected, even as you're in a session about social connection. Yeah, it's. We had a bit of a conversation this morning about I mean, if you actually called your group the Lonely Men's Group, or the Sad Lonely Men's Group, it's clear that no one would turn up. So we have a lot of focus on things like mateship and social connection and exercise and stuff. But there's an interesting discussion to be had around how much do we name up loneliness and social isolation, because that's very real for some people, and potentially there are some individual men who going from being isolated and alone to a group setting where there's a whole bunch of people who are all, it seems, they all know each other. That then can become we talked about you reducing barriers, but that then can become a new barrier, that it's an already existing club. How do you navigate that? How do you keep breaking down the barriers to help men access it?
Are you talking to Ross or to myself? Sorry.
But to you, Paul, specifically. I think Ross is taking care of it.
Yes, I was on the phone. Look, I think this is, we encourage, and we say that right at the very beginning, that we encourage the conversations, the connection points, and the community. Those 3 C's has been really, really important, and why they are important, and how that if we're talking about their holistic well-being, which we do talk about, we say that those 3 C's will play an important part in making your well-being to be, not just okay, but actually flourishing. And, there is unfortunately a lot of stats out there. I was looking at the NIB Foundation, who's just done a major study on well-being in Australia. And I think it was about 50,000 people that they surveyed. And what came out of it was they had to rate out of 10 what their well-being was. The average was 6.2 out of 10. That's really poor. And I'm like going, this is what we're talking about when we do programs like this. Is like going, not just, oh, well, I'm just doing a program. This is about your well-being and your wellness being the best that it could possibly be, and that you're actually flourishing, not just, oh, well, I'm just doing it and I'm just sort of ticking along.
Great, thanks, Paul. So any other questions or comments for Paul before we move on to Mark?
Flourishing is a great word.
Thanks, Ross. Yeah, absolutely. Not just the absence of disease, health, but actually being well and flourishing. Not just surviving, but flourishing.
Exactly.
Yeah, which takes a bit of nourishing, which is what groups like Men's Talk and the Man Walk do. So if there's anyone else, just last call. Great. I'm enjoying the fact that Zorro appears to have joined us on one of the pictures on the screen there. Welcome to Adrian Clunan with his lovely picture of Zorro. Good to see you. And thanks for the wave. Lovely to see you, Adrian. And we're going to move on to Mark now. So for those who don't know, and if you don't know, have you been sleeping under a rock for 5 years? Mark Burns is the CEO of the Man Walk. To think there was a time 5 or 6 years ago when men didn't walk. In fact, there were lots of walking programs around. And if you ever looked at the stats, it was usually 80% women. And then someone came up with a simple idea of going, why don't we have a walk for men? The Man Walk. And then all of a sudden, and I don't know if it was simply an overnight success, Mark, or if it's one of those efforts that was many years in being an overnight success, but all of a sudden, around about 2018, 2019, they started sprouting up everywhere. And you must be heading now towards 100 man walks around Australia, plus many copycat imitators or those inspired by the Man Walk who are walking their own way as well, as men like to do. So the man who started it off, or one of the men who started it off, was Mark Burns, who's going to tell us all about what they've been up to at the Man Walk. Over to you, Mark.
Hey, thanks, Glenn. Thanks very much. And thanks everybody for being here. I'd like to pay my respects to traditional custodians of the land where I am here in beautiful Kiama on the south coast of New South Wales, who are the Wadi people of Dharawal country, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Thanks everyone for being here. As you'll probably work out fairly quickly, I'm not the most formal person. By saying that, I mean just I get quite passionate about things and I tend to sort of roll on. So feel free to put your hand up and wave at me if I'm going off track. I'll give you a bit of a rundown of how the Man Walk started and how it fairly inadvertently grew to what it has become today, and the gaps I think we're filling reasonably well, and what the plan of attack is. So I started walking around the beautiful Kiama Harbour in 2019 as a way to change my own sort of daily routines and habits and start the day on the right foot, so to speak. My lovely wife, Beck, sort of gave me a bit of a nudge and said, hey, you're staying up till about 1 o'clock in the morning doing paperwork. And then, next thing I know, I've had a glass of red wine and it's midnight and I've started watching Netflix for an hour because I've decided in my mind that I deserve to because I've worked hard all day and blah, 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 all those things we do. Next thing we know, it's 1 o'clock and I'm getting up at 6 and I've had 5 hours sleep and I'm feeling a bit bleary. So off I went for a morning walk around beautiful Kiama Harbour, listened to a podcast. After a few weeks, a couple of mates I was speaking to, I told them what my new routine was and they asked if they could come along. So they came and crashed my own personal man walk, which was quite lovely. And then a few more and a few more. Next thing I knew, fairly quickly, we had about a dozen blokes, some that I knew, some that I didn't, had joined me walking around Kiama Harbour. So it was a great way to start the day. And I'd come bouncing back in the door, a bit of exercise, a coffee, some sunlight, and ready to start the day really well for my 2 young boys and my wife. A mate moved to Wollongong and said, can I start a man walk up there? Oh, sorry, just before that, as we do, once we sort of get into the groove of something and become a bit of a team, we decided we should call ourselves something. So within the space of about 15 minutes, we came up with the Man Walk. We came up with the slogan, Walk, Talk, Support. I bounced it off a graphic designer mate of mine who came up with the Man Walk logo and Walk, Talk, Support. And that's stuck since. Then if I could have my time again, I wouldn't change anything about it. I think what we do and what we stand for and how we do it fits really well. Anyway, a mate moved to Wollongong and said, can I start a man walk up there? So we got that set up. We'd started a Facebook page and we'd put a selfie on there each day of, us and the topics covered that day, which would range from structural engineering to, why is the grass greener, to, why the Wallabies playing such rubbish rugby union, through to I'm having a tough week this week. It's my off week with the kids. I really hate this week. My boss is a bit of a jerk at work, all the way through. Not solving problems, just listening and walking and talking. And we found great power in that. So then we had Kiama and Wollongong, and a lovely pastor from up at the Coolangatta Tweed Heads called Martin saw us on Facebook and started a walk up there. So we thought this is pretty cool. We had 3 walks ticking along. Again, not the plan at all. I did go through the process then. I thought I better make sure I've got some structure here. So we became an incorporated association. I trademarked the logo. I did some of those legal things. I took out some basic public liability insurance, which was lucky because the next thing I knew in June 2019, one of our social media posts on a Thursday night went to 1.2 million people and was shared 6,000 times. And next thing we exploded. So for the last 2.5, 3 years, myself and the committee have been chasing our tail to some extent to manage the load. And we've grown and now have 84 man walks around Australia, from Darwin to Sorrento to Ulverstone and Tasmania and Alice Springs and Redcliffe. Redcliffe get about 60 or 70 blokes every walk twice a week. And look, it's simple. So the man walk is free and it always will be. You don't need to sign up. You actually can't sign up. It's come along for a walk and a talk. So I guess the lack of barriers to entry is what has made it so appealing to men. Our cohort is generally sort of 40, 45 to 70-year-old blokes. It's not so much that younger age. The man walk is open to any bloke from 18 and older, but I find that it's more that 40 to 70-year-old bloke. It's often blokes who might have moved locations. They might have retired and moved to more of a seaside town from the city. They don't know many people. They don't have many connections there. One of the things I found really great about the man walk was that although I'm lucky to count myself as having plenty of mates I could pick up the phone and call, I just didn't actually realise that I'd become disconnected to a lot of them and to a lot of the other people, you know, in town. You know, your sporting career, I was going to say career sounds like I was any good at it, but, you know, your sporting time finishes, you know, often around your late 30s or so, and you don't have that Tuesday, Thursday footy training anymore and the games on Saturday. So you lose that regularity of connection. You know, you're trying to be, you know, a really good dad and husband and employee or employer, and your more connections revolve around your kids and your kids' sport and your kids' friends. So yeah, the man walk for me was a lovely way to reconnect with old mates that I hadn't seen for a while, because 6 till 7 in the morning is a nice free time. You know, you're not interfering with family time. You know, you can really go and start the day well and not impact negatively on the family. I guess what we've found, and coming back to, as Paul was saying about loneliness, that's our lane. People say, you know, are you a suicide prevention group? Say, no, we're certainly not that. You know, are you a men's mental health group? Yep, we're that. We're a primary prevention, you know, structure. But really that lane that I think we sit in is that loneliness and social connection, social isolation realm through there. Just got something in front of me here that I was reading today about some recent stats in the last sort of week or so. And it says, half of the Australian male population think they have many acquaintances, but not as many real friends as they would like. Social isolation increased the risk of mortality to a degree equivalent or greater than that of established risk factors such as smoking, hypertension, obesity, and cholesterolemia. So really what I feel like the Man Walk is putting in place is an opportunity for blokes to come together weekly. Some of our walks are now 3 times a week, and just have a nice, simple, easy entry method of getting together and creating community with other blokes. Some of the things that come from that and sprout from that in terms of new friendships are wonderful. The Shell Cove walk just up the road from me here, they're a hilarious bunch. They get 30 or 40 blokes every Thursday evening and Saturday morning. They also now go e-biking together on a Monday. They have Hot Dog Friday, which I'm keen to go and join. I'm a pretty big fan of a hot dog. So yeah, they've become friends, and I get these messages from people saying, you know, Mark, you know, I can't thank you enough for what the Man Walk has done. I haven't had a true friend in so many years. You know, I now feel like I'm a part of something. Thanks for, you know, making a huge difference in my life. There's a message here from this morning from a bloke who was up the road here as well. Mark, can I join a Man Walk near me? I live in so-and-so, actually up the road here. I've just been recently separated from my wife. I need to deal with it. I'm not sleeping. I'm not coping. I feel lonely. So I've had some conversation with him, and he's attending, it's actually the Shell Cove Man Walk this Thursday night. But he called back today and he said, mate, I haven't even been on the Man Walk yet, but the fact that someone cares means that already I feel immeasurably better. So I'm doing the waffling thing. From a structural perspective, the Man Walk has got to a stage now where it just requires a lot of time and energy. You guys all know this. You all work in this space. So I made the big decision at the end of last year to leave my 24-year career as a physiotherapist. I owned a couple of clinics here in Kiama and Gerringong. So I've taken the plunge and I've left that profession, and I've committed myself to the full-time CEO of the Man Walk. It's a voluntary role. We're a low turnover organisation. I'm happy to share that we're a $45,000 to $50,000 a year income, and about the same on the way out. I have an admin person, Danny, who's lovely. She gets paid about $1,000 a month, and an operations guy, Clyde, who's wonderful at social media. We pay him the same. So there goes half of our $45,000 budget. And then, as you guys know, between public liability insurance and some other admin and associated costs, then when someone starts a Man Walk, we send them a banner, a hat.
955 as verbal offer.
And then And that's how
I'll
so they
talk to you
get rid of
later.
all the money.
I want to listen to this guy.
So hopefully, as we move forward, my goal for this year and my commitment to the Man Walk is that I will refine our governance processes. We have a board, a non-executive board of directors that are starting now. We've started as an advisory board and we're moving towards a more formal structure. And that combined with the Man Walk committee and combined with the efforts that I'm really keen and passionate to commit means that we can go to the next level. I can start to have conversations in our charitable and not-for-profit capacity with corporates. I can spend some time and energy and do some learning around applying for government funding so that we can get more blokes coming on our walks and get more blokes walking and talking and start more new walks around the country. And I've got a general goal of starting 1 new man walk per month. Saying that, there's about 4 walk requests in my inbox from the last 2 or 3 days. So I truly believe that by the end of this year, we'll have 100 plus man walks. And in 3 to 5 years, we'll have 500 man walks in Australia and around the world. We have 1 in London, 1 in Dublin, and 1 in Ontario, Canada at the moment. We're sort of cooling our jets. I'm generally a go fast kind of guy, but I've with my role and the governance and things that I know I need to do, I've become one of these boring people who say no to things. So I don't know what's happened. I was a yeah, let's go guy, and now I'm hang on, let's investigate and make sure we're following due process. So don't know what happened there. I'll clam it for a bit and see if there's any questions from the crowd.
That's fabulous, Mark. If you've got a question, stick your hand up, or like Bill just has, you can use the there's only a few of us in the room. You don't need to be using the icons. Just wave. I can see you all. Or if for any reason you don't want to speak on mic, just drop a question into the chat box. I'll come to Bill in a second. I'm going to use my privilege to ask the first question. What are the factors for success? I mean, are there walks that, start and then don't quite take off, and others that just seem to fly from, day one and doing not only 3 a week, but they're doing Hot Dog Friday and Taco Tuesday and, the man walking every day? What have you worked out yet what the factors of success are?
Yeah, mate. A big part of it is the Manbassador. So our local leader is called a Manbassador, and it's having a strong, passionate guy there. 80 of our 82 man walks have started organically from blokes reaching out to us. So that's part of the success. If we want to say, all right, I want to start a man walk at, whatever, Coogee Beach in Sydney, we've found it's a difficult process, to find a bloke and say, this is what it's about. So it's having a passionate Manbassador come to us, one that probably has some community connections, whether it's with a sporting club, the Lions or Rotary Club, something like that. But one that's also committed, 1, to being there every week, which is a requirement for the Manbassador, but 2, goes the next step and not just posting the selfie and the photo in the Climber Man Walk group, also posted on the Man Walk community page with the 3,000 or 4,000 people on there, so we can pick it up there and send it outwardly. But what we suggest is, how about you look at posting it in your local community groups, Climber community page, the Climber Sports Association. So Redcliffe and Shell Cove and Geelong and Bustleton and these ones that are really powerful, the Manbassador there reaches out, does a little bit more to access the wider community, and then people see it, and then wives see it and say, hey Glenn, there's a man walk over here, why don't you do that? So a strong invested Manbassador is a key ingredient.
So it's that in that positive way, that squeaky wheel, and that whole thing of you can't be what you can't see. So if you're not constantly just showing the fact that there's this thing called the man walk and it's out there, then people just maybe aren't aware of it or even what it is. Yeah,
I think so, mate. I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but us blokes are pretty dumb. We're pretty simple. So you've got to make things pretty easy for us. So one, if we can't see it, we don't know about it. We can't add a cost to it, a sign-up form, these kind of things. It all gets very, very difficult. So making it out there and known, and then easy to rock along. Yeah, I love the idea of a conversation, someone phoning you up and saying, so this man walk, then what do you do?
Well, I'll give you a clue. there's two words in the title, and both of them are relevant. And that's the other question, actually. And Bill, I will come to you. Is the question of it being men only, which we understand because just pretty much all of our members in every group we're connected to is men only. But is how important is that? Is it important? Do some groups challenge it? What's the value of it being? Because everyone's got legs, right? Pretty much. So why does it have to be a man walk? Do you guys not like women? What's going on?
Now, good question. Big fan of women. But the real answer is because us blokes aren't very good at it. We're not good at getting together and connecting. So, geez, I reckon from the thousands and thousands of emails and messages we've had over the last few years, there'd be 10 that have said, hey, this is sexist, women should be allowed. And we've got some, standard answers like, hey, thanks for reaching out. Yeah, we get it. The man walk is just for men 18 and older, because us blokes aren't very good at this. Ladies are really good at getting together and having a chat and connecting, but us blokes just aren't. So what we've done here is create a space where just men can come along. And you know what? We've had no pushback. But it is important, like kids change the dynamic of a conversation. Women change the dynamic. We shouldn't be swearing around children. I don't promote swearing on the man walk, but if there's a couple of, potty words, that probably flies okay, depending. But also, a lot of the blokes that come to the man walk, I'm thinking of one bloke in Kiama, it might be marriage separation, which is half of society these days. And I think just having that different tone there, we know this, you guys know this already. It just changes the capacity and the availability for blokes to feel comfortable and relaxed. So we're no way are we anti-women. You guys all know that. It's just this creates a safer space that bloke can feel a bit more comfy, away from the pub and away from that kind of carry on.
That's great. Thanks for the answer. It's just good to hear how you respond to it, and really great to hear that the number of sort of pushbacks you've had are one every few months, which is infinitely small. We are big fans of Secret Men's Business, of course. So I'll come to Bill first, and then I think Ross has got something to say as well. So Bill Penrose from Omni. For those who don't know, that's Older Men, New Ideas, which is a group for older men.
It's exactly the same aims as yours, Mark. Congratulations. I think the question of women coming up has come up with us as well. And we say the same thing, we Secret Men's Business. We don't say it this way, but we'd like to be able to talk and not interfere. We had a woman attend once to talk to us about the building we're in, and we wanted to find out who we were. The dynamics of the room were totally different to what we normally had, though it didn't work. My interest is, my question was, is to what you've now called your ambassadors. You said that some of them come in out of the blue. You've made yourself publicly known, so people know about it. Our emphasis is on people 55 and older, and most of them are over 70, to be honest. And we find that we don't call them ambassadors, but it's nevertheless the same thing. The leader of the group, the one that pulls the group together, that makes it work every day and does whatever we want to do. They're hard to find. And we don't see them coming off the street like you just said. I'd be interested to know how you go looking for them if you were trying to find a group or start a group in a particular area.
Thanks for the question, Bill. With difficulty is the answer. And we are lucky that I think from that huge media push and exposure that we had a couple of years ago, being on radio and newspaper and more breakfast TV, it gave us a real shove from an awareness perspective. When we have gone to a community, and I'm thinking of Yass and Cooma, we've tried to start a man walk there. It's with difficulty finding that, and we call them a man ambassador with an M the front, a man ambassador. So I don't actually have a great answer for you, Bill. What we found did work there was going to Probus and Rotary and the Men's Shed and the rugby club and saying, hey, here's what the man walk is about. It's a weekly walk and talk. The commitment from someone leading the group called the man ambassador would be this. And it worked, but it was hard work, mate. So that's only been 2 or 3 of our walks. The rest have had that organic growth. And I think seeing we have that fairly large social media presence now, that's really helped. Saying that, our cohort are older, as yours are, and social media and mobile phones are a bit of a barrier. So a challenge for us is working out how we start to collect data and track our members and things like that. Track's not the right word. How I get the ambassadors to tell me how many walkers there are that week. So Erwin at Maroubra, Erwin's 81. He's a bloody legend. I love him. He gives me a weather report most days from the tennis courts. He's actually pretty IT savvy on his phone. He's very good. But out of the 6 or 7 blokes who are there, all are well over 55, he's the only person that uses a mobile phone regularly. So that's good. A requirement of being a ambassador is that you're willing to check in with us, that you're willing to put a photo and a bit of a report on social media or on Facebook. So I don't think I've answered your question very well, mate. It's difficult, and we've been blessed with the organic growth.
Thanks, Mark. I had a second question. You mentioned a lovely number there called $50,000, which is quite a significant amount of money. And I know you're not paid. You've paid a small amount to a couple of staff. But can you tell me roughly where that money comes from and how it goes out?
Yeah, 100%. We've got our Man Walk Golf Day down here on Friday, which will raise $12,000 to $15,000 of profit just from that one day. And so there's about 12 to 15. 20 odd thousand probably comes from 4 Club New South Wales grants. That's a really good avenue for all of us. So Clubs New South Wales have a funding window that opens every year. For most of the clubs in New South Wales, it closes on July 31, and they have category 1, 2, and 3. So what we're doing, what we need to do a better job of, is apply for these Club New South Wales grants. They're anywhere from $3,000 to $8,000. So we apply for $5,000 for a specific location, and that money then needs to be spent in that location. So that's the only thing. If you apply for one at Bondi Beach, you're obliged to spend that money at Bondi Beach. So it doesn't really fund the organisation particularly well, but it gives you funding to help that particular walk or walks in that area. So yeah, a golf day, Club New South Wales grants, and then probably just some small bits and pieces, donations makes up the rest of the money. There's a local hotel up the road here that has made us part of their community donation arm when you buy a meal or a soft drink or a beer, and that's about $5,000 or $6,000. And that's about the 45, to be honest, mate.
That's money in. What's the money out?
$1,000 a month for our admin person. So that's 12,000 plus GST. There's 13. Same thing for our operations guy, Big Clyde, who does all our social media and answers some emails as well. So there's $26,000 out. 6,000 public liability. There's 32, and then the rest is probably miscellaneous printing and admin. And when a ambassador starts a new location, it costs us $300 or $400 to send him a banner, a hat, a shirt, and a jumper.
It's got a bit Shark Tank or Dragon's Den. I'm hoping that Bill's now going to follow up and say he's in for £50,000 himself.
He may be.
Working on it.
That's my English brain. Or dollars. Dollars is $50,000 is good too. Yeah. We're getting close to time, but Ross, you had your hand up a little earlier. Thanks, Bill. It's great.
Yes, Mark. There's 2 points that I'd be very interested in your reflection on. One is the environmental factor of walking, and the other is the physical health aspect of walking. Are they things that are of consideration? And if so, I'd love to learn from you.
They are. And as you guys know, my background is of a physiotherapy and an exercise science degree. So I'm passionate about health and wellness and activity. Paul, great presentation, spoke on that as well, and the benefits of such being outdoors, being in the environment. Some of our more successful walks, probably not coincidentally, are some of the more picturesque locations. Bustleton Jetty in Western Australia, the boardwalk at Manly, Kiama Harbour, those kind of ones. So yeah, the benefits of physical activity and an hour walk once a week, you're knocking over a third of your requirements for good health and well-being, according to the American Sports Medicine Society. So yeah, fresh air, communication, camaraderie in an outdoor environment is just absolutely key. We've got a new walk starting in Blacktown in a couple of weeks. Lovely bloke called AJ is going to be our ambassador there, and he said, "Oh, Mark, I'm a bit worried about how it will go because, you know, we're walking around the streets. We'll walk around a park, but he said, I'm conscious that it's not, you know, quite as pretty as some of the other walks." So I'll be interested to see how it goes as well. There is a lovely park there. Yes, it's, you know, in a Western Sydney and things, and it's not, you know, how lucky I am here at Kiama Beach, but yeah, that outdoor is key.
Yeah. What do you have a set distance, Mark? You know, like the 5K park run, is it a particular distance?
We say less than an hour. So in terms of our ambassador requirements and decreasing the barriers to entry, we recommend a flat, even walk. So no hills if you can avoid them, less than an hour, which means it's about 4.5K maximum. We want to make sure that if you come along and you're 80 years old and had a knee replacement, that you're able to attend the walk. The walk will stretch out a little bit, and that's okay. You separate into, you know, a bit of a line. But again, part of the beauty of the man walk is that side by side. Us blokes aren't always super good at this face-to-face stuff. Like I can do it. I see my psychologist a few times a year. I can have a nice face-to-face conversation. But I think the pressure that shoulder to shoulder, side by side walk outdoors with a coffee in your hand, what that does is really powerful.
Great. Look, I'm mindful we're just going to time. So before I go to Adrian, Paul and Mark, are you okay to go 5 minutes over, or have you got a hard? Yeah, great. Thanks. Adrian Clunan.
Mark, good to actually at last. I'm a member at Werribee in Melbourne. I turn 80 in 2 months' time. I'm the oldest by, I don't know, 30 years, I suppose. Our numbers have declined in recent time because our main man moved away, but we're slowly building up again. Just to sort of follow up your remarks, we walk for about an hour. We walk an out and back alongside a river. The two main leaders of the group are not coffee drinkers, even though we start at a coffee shop and we finish at a coffee shop, but we don't go for a coffee. But I'm sure that'll change as the personnel change. I've mentioned it to quite a number of people my age and younger, and they go, "Oh no, 7:30 in the morning, you've got to be joking." And I'm going, "You're not going to tell me you're still sleeping at 7:30 in the morning when you're 70 or 80, surely?" "Oh yeah, but well, they're the ones who lose out."
It is, yeah, very much so, mate. And I actually, funny you say that with Werribee. I was looking at you guys today on the social media, and I had a bit of a chuckle. Your starting point is a coffee shop, I think, called Notorious Espresso.
Mm.
What a great name. Yeah, you know, some of the guys are coffee drinkers, some aren't. And again, it's interesting, mate, in terms of those barriers. I get people like the just retired mayor of Kiama, who is a retired dairy farmer and so on. He said, "Burnsy, I'd come along on the man walk, but it's too bloody early." I said, "Mate, I've been a dairy farmer for 50 years. And he said, "Yeah, but now I'm not. And I don't want to get up at, you know, 5:45 in the morning." So in terms of removing or decreasing barriers, you can't always get it right, can you? You know, where we're trying to remove barriers from interfering with family time. But I get it. You know, if you were a tradie or a farmer or whatever it might have been, and you were up early every day, and now you don't want to get up early, the man walk may not suit you. Shell Cove's a good example. I've referenced them a few times. So they had that. They're 7 o'clock in the morning Saturday, and a few blokes said either they work on the weekend or they can't do that. They had a 5:30 p.m. Thursday walk, which is really successful. So yeah, it's amongst the group finding a time that works for your cohort, whether it is changing the walk time sometimes, or ideally adding another walk during the week. And yeah, mate, in terms of some walks, you know, going well, then dying off a little bit from losing members, that's something I really want to work hard on this year about how I can go and support groups with some local marketing and social media and advertising in the local area. You know, I'd love to get out and start visiting some groups, and we've got some other sort of fundraising things in mind, so blokes can have some shirts and hats and raise some awareness that way too. So yeah, my brain's spinning a bit.
Great. Thanks, Mark. So look, I'm going to give a question to both Paul and Mark. I'm going to give you two questions. the final one will be what's your will be a real soft lob. It'll be, you know, what's your final call to action for anyone that watches this. The first one though is more broadly, we're in a series about social connection in men. Everyone on this call recognizes that building more social connection in men is pretty much generally really good for our health. So what are the key success factors when seeking to build social connection in men, you know, that can apply not just to your approach, but to anyone who's concerned with building social connection in men? What have you seen are the key success factors? And I'll come over to you, Paul, as you've been quietly listening for a good half an hour now.
Oh, look, I just think it's the freedom that you're able to express yourself, and also the fact that, you know, no matter who you are, and, you know, that you have that ability to communicate, and we are human beings first and foremost, and that is the power of that speech and conversation is something that is obviously very unique to us. And so that we have that capacity to be able to do that and encourage it wherever we can. And there's been mentioned already before that women are so much more comfortable and it's more natural for them to do that. I think what we're trying to build here, as Mark is as well, and all the other groups that are around Australia doing similar things, is making conversation as common and as connective as we possibly can.
Brilliant. Thanks, Paul. I was just reading a report last week. It was a survey on Australian values and what people thought Australian values were now. And the top three were freedom, equality of opportunity, and mateship. And it seems that both of your projects actually provide all of that. It's an equal opportunity scheme. Anyone can come along. You provide mateship, and you're free to be yourself. So it sounds like you're nailing something there. Mark.
I just jotted down here, you know, regular, you know, so same time each week. Blokes are simple. Don't start changing things up and changing times on us. Free. Everyone likes free stuff. And again, takes away a barrier. And just easy, you know, come along, you know, talk about the footy. If I say, you know, come along and talk about your feelings, that's a barrier for some blokes. It's wonderful, you know, like the men's table and lots of beautiful organisations that do that, and you pay money, you sign up, and you know, part of that is requirement, talk about your feelings. Great, but only for about 10% of blokes, you know, are able or willing to do that. So yeah, regular, free, and nice and simple, and not too threatening. Were the things I wrote down there.
That's really insightful, Mark. And so to you both, a final call to action.
Oh, okay. Well, for us, it's like, I think I've used that motion is lotion is so important, because this is an opportunity really to come out and do something that is absolutely fantastic. It is the 3 C's. It is community, connection, and coffee, which tends to be very, very popular for everybody. But it is that opportunity to come together as a community and to be a part. Because as we say, you are never alone, and you have people that are there willing to listen, but also to actually help and assist. So that's really important.
That's great, Paul. Thank you. Really appreciate you giving us your time today, and looking forward to actually getting face to face or shoulder to shoulder, more likely, with a coffee in Scarborough sometime in the next 6 to 12 months. Mark, it's your turn.
I think I just want to say walk, talk, support, which I know is cheesy, seeing it's our slogan, but, you know, it's walk and talk, and with that there is support. And that's it. People say, oh, how do you support people? It's just by being there. You know, yes, a lot of our men have mental health first aid training and these kind of things, can have the conversation, but it is just come along for a walk and a talk. The camaraderie and the support and the mateship that you'll gather from that, that's the win. That's the win. So yeah, come along.
That's great. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for doing that thing you did, which was one day decided to go for a walk. Who'd have thought you'd have so many other blokes alongside you around the country doing it now? It's remarkable. Thanks for your time, both.
Thanks, everyone. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
All right.